Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Arthur's Roundtable. Super grateful for everybody who's listening and sharing. So thank you for that. So we have Dylan McDonnell with us today, and we don't know each other, but we've had an opportunity to get acquainted via email and learn some interesting things about his business. And I think you'll all find it interesting. So feel free, like I said, to share it if you like. So Dylan, thanks for being here and doing this with us.
Not at all. Thank you very much for having me.
So let's start at the beginning, if that's okay with you.
Sure. So, quick background.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So you can probably detect a bit of an accent. I'm Irish, although I was born in Philly randomly. Moved back from Philly to Ireland when I was 5 years old. Did all school, university, all that fun stuff back there. A lawyer by trade. I worked in big law for a number of years. Corporate investment funds primarily. So repped a lot of the global tech companies, the Apples and Facebooks of the world, and then moved a little bit more into investment funds and went in-house. And that journey took me to Australia. So I lived in Sydney for 4 years, initially still in my capacity as a lawyer. But while there, I started Foodini, which is obviously part of the reason we're talking here today. And my reason for that is pretty personal. Diagnosed with celiac disease as a kid. So I've kind of lived, the problem of having to dine out with a food allergy for most of my life. And I think just over time, I got more and more frustrated with just how challenging it was. And I think the big unlock for me happened when I realized how big the market was in terms of how many people have a food allergy or a dietary restriction. I think for a long time, you just assumed it was you and a few other people. But once I realized it was, 33 million Americans with a diagnosed food allergy, and then layer on intolerances, that's another 50 million. Layer on preference diets like vegan and vegetarian and keto and low FODMAP and low carb and everything else, it's another 70 million. So about half the US population that falls into the bracket of having some form of dietary restriction. Yet the kind of transparency and communication from everything dining out wise was extraordinarily limited. And so in essence, started the company initially in Australia, scaled a little bit there, identified that if this was going to be big, it would need it to be in the US. And so I moved across to LA just over 2 years ago now, and raised a bit more funding here. And obviously I've been growing our roots in the industry since. And yeah, that's, I suppose, the kind of quick.
So it's shocking that the 30 million, if I'm getting this right, 30 million people have celiac?
Sorry, 33 million Americans have a food allergy.
Okay.
Diagnosed food allergy, yeah. So not necessarily it could be allergic to nuts or eggs or soy or seafood
It's
or
still
whatever.
shocking number, right?
It's math. I couldn't believe it either. 1 in 10 essentially and that's just diagnosed. That's not including all of the people who have it and still don't know.
Yeah. So I don't know anything about the science, and I don't want to presume that I do, but how much of this was a result of our bad food system with additives and dyes and all that business?
Yeah.
Does that catalyze what otherwise would not be a dormant allergy? And I'm just making stuff up here. But
No, it's a phenomenal question, and it doesn't really have like an official answer. So I'm not a medical professional either, so I have my hypotheses which I can share. But to be clear, this is just my opinion. I think it's a combination of factors. One is definitely genetic. So, for example, Ireland has the highest rate of celiac disease per head of capita in the world. Italy is number two. The main hypothesis for why Ireland has such a high rate of celiac disease is the potato famine.
I was going to say that sort of
Yeah.
connected the dots there
The
immediately.
assumption is that when the potato crop was wiped out at that time, and that was obviously the main food the Irish people were dependent on, and then we started importing wheat and gluten from the UK and other countries, and then introduced it into our diet. As a result, that has downstream created this genetic reaction to gluten. That's one. Similar, like I think it's over 60% of the Asian population is lactose intolerant. Again, I think it's a similar hypothesis in terms of mainly rice-based, not so much dairy-based. And when that was introduced, it didn't necessarily agree with them. Melbourne is the food allergy capital of the world. It has the most food allergies per head of capital of any city in the world. Why? I have absolutely no idea.
Who knows, right?
But to your point, one thing, and I think you're on the money. There is no question in my mind that the food we are consuming is contributing to this in some way. The data shows year on year on year on year on year, diagnosis of food allergies continues to grow. People are getting more and more intolerant and getting more and more adverse reactions to all sorts of foods. And I can't really see any world in which that isn't linked to the quality of the food that we're eating in general. If you were to listen to RFK, RFK has multiple kids with severe peanut allergies. His hypothesis is that it's back to the vaccines. He said it at a Food Allergy Fund event a few months ago. Lots of different theories. Hard to know exactly what is to pinpoint it, but a combination, in my opinion.
It just seems as if that it's a good baseline that if we're putting additives in our food that our body is not accustomed to, that that can't be a good thing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So, I mean,
100%.
even if it's not tied into exacerbating the allergies, it's probably a good thing to avoid.
100%. And listen, whatever your politics, the one thing that RFK and their team are doing, which I really do agree on, is like you look at a lot of the food dyes and stuff that they're now trying to ban. Like you pick up a pack of Doritos in the UK, it's got 15 ingredients. You pick up that same bag of Doritos in the US, it's got 40.
It's insane. Yeah.
And that is simply because from a regulatory perspective, it's not allowed in the UK. No such restriction here. They're going to pump it full of not good ingredients.
Yeah, I'm a big fan because I think he's going to have some impact. And of course, it's not only anecdotal, but when you go to Italy, which I recently was in Italy, you just feel better after eating the pasta, right? Or whatever. And the tomatoes taste better. And this is not uncommon knowledge, but it just, for some reason, whether it's locally grown, no herbicides, pesticides, all that kind of stuff, it just seems to be better.
100%. It was the first time I had actually come across that anecdote was I met a few moms when I first came across here with kids with like celiac or not celiac. They had gluten allergies and wheat allergies. And they were saying when they'd eat pasta in the US, they'd come out with all these symptoms and flare up and everything. Go to Italy, eat the same pasta, zilch. No symptoms whatsoever. Again, that can only be the ingredients in the food.
Yeah, totally. So then what happened? You brought it here, you raised a little bit of money. So
Yeah.
give some structure to the model so people have an idea.
Yeah, well, yeah. Let me tell you what we actually do. So we essentially help bridge the communication gap between restaurants and food service and consumers. So we're a B2B company. So we work with restaurants, with stadiums, hotels, universities. We pull in their menu data, their recipe data, their product data, because we need to know. It's no good to know it's ketchup. We need to know is it Heinz ketchup or is it a different brand of ketchup because those have different ingredients and allergens. We analyze all that and enrich it with the correct allergy and dietary information. We've trained LLMs on this for the last 4 years to be able to do it extremely accurately. We also have a team of dietitians who do QA over the top and ensure everything is 100% correct. Once we have that source of truth in our kind of structured data format, we then power a consumer facing experience whereby a consumer on a website can just click a button in venue, scan a QR code, which brings up a personalized menu experience. So it's a web app. They don't have to download an app. So they scan the QR code in venue, pops up, create your dietary profile. We have 150 different allergens and diets they can choose from, not just the top nine. So they know gluten, vegan, keto, tomato, save. And then instantly they'll be shown here's what you can eat. Here's what you can eat with a modifier and what that modifier is, i.e., they can take out this sauce or add in that gluten free bread. And here's what you can't eat and why, because these ingredients are baked in and can't be removed. So it's a completely personalized experience based on real accurate data and obviously can choose as many different restrictions as they need to do.
Nice.
So that's the product.
And so it would seem to make sense that you would have to understand what Cisco's doing and purveyors, right?
Yeah, that's one leg, one of the three legs. I would say it's the menu, it's the recipes, and it's the products, which are often coming from Cisco, US Foods, etc.
That sounds like a big lift. Or is there pushback from the restaurants?
Well, there's a few components to this, right? So it's like I'll start with the why they absolutely have to do it now, and I'll fall back on why they should have been doing it anyway. So in Europe, for the last decade, you can't open in most countries as much as a hot dog stand without labeling it for the major allergens by law. That's just been standard practice in Europe to protect the consumer, but also to protect the restaurant from like making people sick and being sued as well. So that's a starting point. In the US, there's been no such requirement historically, up until one was signed last October, there was nutrition requirements, and that's why you'll see every chain with 20 plus locations in the country must put calories on their menus, and you've probably seen that when you go into any chain, but not allergens. In California, last October, Gavin Newsom signed a bill called SB 68, which for the first time requires restaurant groups with 20 plus locations worldwide, where if they have even one location in California, so if they have 20 in the US and one of those in California, they must now label their menus for the top 9 allergens effective 1 July, 10 weeks' time. So that now is completely changing the landscape in terms of pretty much every mid-market and national restaurant chain is now caught by this and must do this. Two ways they can do it. One, they can on the physical menu, and sorry to be clear, this is physical and digital menus. So it's not just their PDF menu, it's their website menu, it's their DoorDash menu, it's everywhere their menu exists. Two ways they can do it in venue. One, they can say chicken burger contains gluten, eggs, wheat. Beef burger contains, and so on and so forth. Or two, they can have a QR code that links out to a digital allergen menu, which is obviously what we do. And most major brands, most all brands, have kind of voiced a pretty strong preference to not destroy their menus with a lot of the the allergen information when they can link out to a different experience that provides that for the people who need it. So that's kind of the first reason, is that restaurants can no longer push back because they have to do it. There's also 6 more states now following in the footsteps of California, with the major difference between all of these bills in draft being that it applies to all restaurants, not just 20 plus. So this is coming like it did in Europe, one way or another, over the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months. Most states in this country are going to be required by law to tag their restaurants in those states to tag their menus for food allergens. So it's coming anyway. As to your point on pushback, the bottom line is, I've spoke to the consumer numbers. Consumers are demanding this information. Sure, as a restaurant, you can say, no, we don't know, we don't have it, leave. But that isn't good hospitality practice, especially when you have a market that big that needs this information. And again, don't forget, if you lose that Dylan the celiac, you lose my friends, my family, my coworkers. I'm the problem. If you don't cater for me, I can't. My group can't come here. We
Yeah, the
got
network effect, right?
That's
Yeah.
the network effect of it, right? So there's the fact that if you do this properly, you attract more loyal customers like me, the operational efficiencies as well. Currently, the staff are having this conversation. In a lot of states you'll like Massachusetts, for example, they're required by law to ask any allergies or dietaries at the table. Great. I say, yeah, I have a sesame allergy. Now all of a sudden the onus is back on that server to know where in the menu is the sesame. And that could be hidden in any sauce, in any recipe, and any menu item. And if you get it wrong and I get sick, you're on the hook. I'm suing you now, and all of a sudden you're going to have to settle or be put out of business probably. So there's the less questions for the staff. Operationally, everything is moving a lot quicker. We see about a 60% reduction in questions from staff with just our solution. You have the reduction in risk, like I said, give them accurate information, less mistakes, less lawsuits. And then you've data. Right now, every one of these conversations is a lost data point. With our solution, you now know that Dylan is a celiac. You tie it to your consumer data profile. Now you can market to me accordingly. Now you can personalize to me with that marketing accordingly. Now you can optimize your menu, because we will tell you that last month you had 1,000 celiacs, but you only have one gluten-free option on your menu. You're missing the boat. You need to change your menu to bring more options for this segment who's already coming into your restaurant. So these are just all the reasons, Arthur, why it's kind of no brainer. But traditionally, unfortunately, most restaurants in America have been a little bit, to your point, I think, nervous around doing it.
Yeah, well, I think that's true. And I can't speak for the restaurants, but it seems to me that in an environment where we're trying to, especially in California, where it's overregulated on everything, is in an environment where we want less regulation to allow people to be in business without the friction of senseless regulations. These make sense. Like this sounds like something that makes sense.
Totally. Just on that point, like California. I don't know how most businesses do business in California. I want to be clear on that. I think the overregulation is insane. It's so hard to do business in this state. And I have huge empathy for restaurateurs. Restaurants are also an incredibly tough business in any state, not a mind in California. Margins are razor thin. It is such a difficult thing to manage and to actually be successful with. This is just one of those things where it just makes sense. And part of the reason we exist, to your point, if you're a small independent operator and you're trying to do this analysis, it'll take you a little bit of time. Like it's not as simple, there's a lot. And that's why we exist. We're already plugged into all of these systems. We already have all the data. We've onboarded hundreds and nearly thousands of restaurants at this point. So we make it easy to do this analysis and we're not that expensive. So, the barrier to doing this is not what it was 10 years ago.
So if I was a two restaurant owner in California, I would look at this as a daunting task. And if you came and I'm not promoting your business because you paid me to do so, I just think it makes sense. If you came to me and said, look, we've got all the Cisco information, we got the Purveyor information. When you build your recipes, you'll have this already in here. And the friction associated with the bandwidth and lift that we would otherwise have to do manually, you've taken a lot of that off. And so what's that? Is it add 2% to the price of the product? Is there, I'm not really asking you to disclose your pricing. I'm just wondering, like, as a restaurant owner, okay, I have to do it now, or I want to do it. What's the friction?
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you very simply. So traditionally, a consult for say a two restaurant operator like that, a consultant would have probably come in and charged them $25,000 to do minimum to do an analysis because it's manual hours,
Yeah.
tens and fifties of hours probably to get that done. We charge a one-time onboarding fee, which for a two restaurant like would probably be $2,000 to $4,000, and then a monthly reoccurring SaaS fee, which is probably for again, there's variance here, but call it $100 a month. That's our pricing.
And it adjusts as the menu adjusts.
So included in that is as your menu changes over the course of the year, we'll update it. So if you add a new menu item or two new menu items in June, we will, as part of our service, add them to your allergy menu as well so that everything is consistent. So again, that's for SMB. Our pricing obviously at enterprise is very different. Another point as well, we integrate with online ordering. So like currently, let's say you're a bigger group, you're a mid-market group and you have a PDF somewhere buried on your website. It's a dead end. Consumers trying to get the allergen information, they hit this PDF which they can't even understand. And what now? Our solution, they have the information personalized to them and that there's an order button. So now they can literally link directly to your online ordering solution
Yeah.
so that now the cart is actually being populated with one click from the allergy place, as opposed to, again, being in a dead end PDF. So we have the maths to prove to restaurants that are not only does it solve the compliance issue, the risk issue, blah, 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 but we actually make you money.
Because people are going to move forward with an order.
Exactly. Yeah. The whole reason they're looking is to understand what they can eat. That's why they're at the allergen matrix in the first place. They're trying to ascertain, is there something here I can order? And we make it super simple for them to understand that. And we make it super simple for them to order that.
Have you talked to Wonder?
We've spoken to a few more junior people there. They more so the Grubhub team, to be honest. So Wonder owns Grubhub, Blue
They
Apron.
bought it last year. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we've been probably more focused on first and third party online ordering because we're partners with many of them because again, just the integration and it makes sense for all of us. Wonder, more at the junior level, not so much at the exec level as yet. They make sense for us as a partner. Just hasn't been a kind of a top priority as yet. Why do you ask? Is that one you think makes sense?
We know them,
Yeah,
being that they're focused in New York City presently,
yeah,
and they've raised a lot of money and their aspirations are big.
yeah.
And
Well,
the
listen,
product is awesome.
yeah, Mark Laurie cares about food allergies as well. We know that, and they already do better than the median, I would say, when it comes to food allergies. Like they do, it is something they try to identify. Again, I like to give credit to organizations who try and who make best efforts. So they definitely do that. I think if we worked with them, we could dramatically enhance that offering. But no, I agree. It's a great product and they're an impressive company and he's an impressive entrepreneur.
Yeah. His aspirations are big. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's what's interesting is I can't remember the name of it, but in grocery shopping, we use the app that reads the UPC or whatever it is, and
Yucca?
it gives it a rating. Is it called?
Yucca?
Yeah, Yuka.
Yeah.
It's indispensable, right? We don't shop without it. So it's the same idea.
Yeah, and the reason Yucca works is because there is a nutritional label on CPG products. The problem with restaurants is there's
Is
no
there isn't?
CPG label on them. And
Yeah,
that's kind of what we're doing indirectly is we're putting that label virtually on their products so that the consumer can essentially do the exact same analysis you do on Yucca, except for allergy and nutritional information,
yeah.
and then make their own informed decision as to whether that is an item that's suitable for them or not. Is there another layer where we go to Yucca where we can actually recommend whether it's good for you or not? Sure, but I think that would be a more consumer facing play than a restaurant facing play
A
right
little
now.
dangerous too.
Yeah, exactly. Frankly, we're not in the business of making recommendations to people. We're in the business of providing them transparent information so that they can make
They
an
can make a
informed decision
decision.
for themselves based on their needs.
And I would say, even though, based on what you've described, even though there is some culpability of the restaurant putting the right ingredients on the menu and in whatever the meal is, that you've laid the responsibility back on the consumer largely by saying, if you scan this, then you eat something that you're allergic to. It's not our fault.
Yeah, like it's
Does that make sense?
there's definitely a component of that. I think it's for the restaurant. It's like so lawyer hat on. Strict liability applies to all food allergy incidences. If I walk into any restaurant in the United States of America and say, "Hi, I have a nut allergy," and you end up serving me a nut, you're strictly liable. You're going to lose whatever lawsuit I
Pretty
try.
binary, right?
It's pretty binary. So that's just a fact if you're put on notice of
Right.
the allergy. Now, again, our just fundamental argument here is right now that is happening all of the time, and the staff member is the line of defense between that lawsuit and that consumer. And 70 something percent, I think it's 72% of US wait staff are not properly trained on food allergies at the base level. Not a mind being trained on every menu item and every recipe and every product and every ingredient and every allergen on your, for that restaurant. They're just
And
not.
they're not getting paid to care,
They're not.
right?
They're not. Maybe super high end fine dining, like maybe like the really expensive steakhouses and high end. Sure, staff are obviously a lot better trained there. Certainly, on probably the major food allergens. But for the most part, that's not reflective of the restaurant industry or the food service industry for that matter. So again, it just comes back to this fundamental piece of: do you want a source of truth that's been technically approved by your team, by our team, that the consumer is for the most part relying on further allergen information? Or do you want the staff member to have a go at answering the question? That's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Most consider like I don't know, but like I don't know if you know many people out there that have food allergies or dietary needs, but like there are some people that I think restaurants think are just annoying. Or they're just causing hassle. They're probably not even allergic. They're just trying to look for attention. And sure, there are some people like that. Most of us, like me, like I don't even want any special treatment. I just want to order my food, order my drink like everyone else and go home. Like I'm not looking for anything special. But I find a lot of the time I end up in this thing where I'm having like chefs are coming to the table and managers and it's this whole production because again they don't know the information already. They're having to pull stuff out of the fridge and check the label on the fly.
Right.
It's crazy. And
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of a sudden
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
in this awkward position. I'm at my friends. I'm just trying to have a beer and some food and I can't because there's this whole production going on around me, and I was like, "Oh, is it even worth it? Why did I?" And that's the reality, I think, for most people. They just want to be like everyone else. Give them the information to allow them to make an informed decision.
Totally makes sense. Has this impacted the purveyor, like the purveyors experiencing that they have to source stuff more diligently? And if so, does it cost more? And then at the end of the day, does the consumer pay more because the purveyor has to buy a higher priced item because they've been able to decide that or determine that it is there is there an additional cost associated with determining whether there's an allergen in the food or not?
No, there shouldn't be. Like I said, one could try and tackle it themselves, and just do. And again, for me, and to be clear, if restaurants don't want to use our service, that's totally their prerogative. What I would just say to all of them is, even if you want to sit down for a week and just do this, try and do it all out yourself, having your allergens documented is critical to protect your restaurant from a liability standpoint. Full stop. So do it on a piece of paper or on a spreadsheet if you so wish and you believe you have the ability to do that. That's totally your prerogative. In terms of the only cost to either the restaurant or to the consumer should be in the actual analysis, like doing the initial analysis, and then, powering. Like, for example, like a lot of restaurants who do this manually, every time, let's say they have a menu board and it contains gluten, vegan, vegetarian, and dairy. You have a handful of them in the country. Every time something changes on the menu, they need to reprint the whole menu board,
I know it's crazy.
reprint the whole thing. I would argue the printing cost of doing that once or twice a year would far outweigh our SaaS cost, which updates automatically in real time. You just have the QR code there once, and you never have to touch any of the stuff again. So, and to your point, I think what you were kind of touching on there is one of the challenges, and it comes back to my empathy with restaurants on this. One of the challenges restaurants have is, let's say, and you used Cisco as an example earlier. Let's say Cisco has been for the last year delivering a certain brand of soy sauce to a restaurant. Now all of a sudden there's a shortage. Cisco runs out of it. So Cisco will substitute a different but similar soy sauce and deliver that to the restaurant. A lot of the time they won't notify the restaurant that that's happened, or it'll be missed somehow. Maybe they will, but it won't be clicked by the restaurant. Easily. Restaurants have 101 things going on. The last thing a lot of the time they're thinking about is whether it's a different soy sauce. That different soy sauce can have different ingredients, and those different ingredients can have different allergens. And now all of a sudden you have a situation where, your allergen information is incorrect, and if something goes wrong. So these are all the kind of things that happen in reality every day in this country. And again, it's part of the reason we exist, is because we believe that most restaurants don't have the ability or the time or the wherewithal to actually track and manage this. And there isn't systems in place currently to do it. We are that system. That's
How
what we
does your system solve that fact pattern, or
the
substitute soy sauce?
so we have a process in place where when inventory, because we're connected to inventory management systems, so we'll analyze the invoices that from the inventory orders, and we'll see that there's a different branded product than the one before, and that will create a trigger for us to check and then to review the allergen ingredient information, and then if and confirm with the restaurant that a product swap has happened, and then update that product swap on our system. What the impact of that as well, which is the beauty of our system, is, let's say that product swap has happened. We detected it from the invoice. We've confirmed with the restaurant that that's correct and that new product's being used. We then update that product in our system. And every menu item that is using that product automatically updates in tandem. We don't need to go back into every menu item and every recipe. We just update the product once, swap it, everything else updates automatically with that new product.
That's cool.
Yeah. And that just, again, listen, there's been 3 or 4 years of trial and error here. Like, you wouldn't believe the amount of different things we've come across and the difference between a small local coffee shop and your major enterprise with 1,000 locations and everything in between. Like, I've seen everything at this point, I think. And so, no, we figured out a pretty robust system to get this as accurate and as streamlined with as little lift on the restaurant side as possible. But there's a culture point here as well. Like, one of the things, and we say, and we offer free training to all the restaurants, it's like a lot of, the staff have to understand that this is a real thing, and you're going to kill someone by accident if you don't take this seriously. And unfortunately, a lot of people just don't know that, and they just need that training to understand the significance of this problem.
So, how does this affect my favorite bagel place in Brooklyn that's got one shop? They sell out their bagels at 1 o'clock, and the next day they go and make, like, how does that, probably not a good example because they're only making bagels and that's pretty easy to discern what's in them. But the coffee shop, my favorite coffee shop in the Lower East Side.
How do they do the analysis?
Well, no, how does it affect them? Is there an incentive besides not wanting to kill somebody for them to get on the bandwagon and take this seriously?
Absolutely. All of the reasons I outlined at the start.
Yeah.
If you said to me right now, let's go to that coffee shop, the first thing I'm going to do, and any of your listeners who have an allergy in the family or in the friend group will vouch for this, I'm going to go on your website and look at your menu because I can't say yes until I know if they have a gluten-free bagel or not. Otherwise, I can't eat there. I'm just going to be watching you eat or
Right.
eating out of a tub of cream cheese or something. So the first thing I'm going to do is check your menu. And if I can't see on your menu clearly that I can eat something, I'm going to say, do you mind if we don't go there and go to this other place up the street that I know can cater for me instead? And bear in mind, because our system also lives on the website. So we beside the normal menu. So it's about attracting and helping consumers understand that you can cater for them. And so attracting loyal customers is a huge part of that.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and to your example, by the way, and you mentioned your New York bagel shop, a second law that's passing this year in New York, specifically November 1st. It's a bit of an outlier. It's a little different to the other 6 laws that are coming in the other states, but it applies to every restaurant in the state of New York that sells pre-packaged foods. So, for example, if that bagel shop pre-makes bagels and cream cheese with salmon, and wraps it in foil and puts it in a grab and go fridge, that is impacted by the law. They must label that item for the major 9 food allergens. If instead a consumer comes in and said, hey, can I have a bagel and cream cheese, and they make it for them fresh in front of them, that does not have to be labeled.
That's really interesting.
That's a New York only law coming into effect 1 November this year.
What's the rationale by making the distinction?
Honestly, I'm not totally
Well,
sure.
because it does it also require the law also require for that bagel that's made that you're just going to eat at the restaurant that's not prepackaged require the restaurant to ask them the allergy question? That would only be the thing that made sense to me.
Say that once more. What was the question?
If you're going in and you're going to eat the bagel there, right? It's
Yeah.
not prepackaged, or take it with you, whatever. It would make sense that the distinction of having the one that's in the heater to grab and go to have the allergens on it because you're not interacting with the staff to ask the question that do you have any allergies? That would
Yeah, that's more that, and that's what's in Massachusetts. Like there are laws around like staff being required to ask people around allergies or dietaries. But I think the overarching messaging here is like, so you've the SB 68 in California, you've that law I just mentioned in New York, you've 6 other states who are in the process of actioning laws similar to the California one, which is all items, not the prepackaged carve out for New York. You have RFK at the federal level with 3 kids with food allergies. He's made food allergies a priority health issue for the White House as well. You have this just wave of momentum around this issue right now. You have another law that just passed in in Washington where they are required to everything that's delivered that has a food allergen in it, or that if someone tells the restaurant they have a food allergy and that item is delivered, is being sent out by delivery, the packaging for the item with the notified food allergy must have some form of marker on it to differentiate it from, say, other items. That just passed, and that's effective 1 July as well, 10 weeks' time. So the point I'm trying to make is there is a raft, a wave of regulatory momentum around the issue of food allergies, mirroring what happened in Europe a decade ago. And coming back to my earlier point, it is just a matter of time until the majority of states, if not all of them, will be required to document food allergies and label them on menus. And ultimately, I think as the industry, which it is now, it is accepting this, it is a benefit for them and it's a benefit for the consumer. And once we kind of get over the teething issues and the little bit of, uncomfort around
sorting
it,
it out.
it
Yeah.
is going to become standard before we know it.
In the spirit of, you know, regulations bad, this is a good regulation.
Exactly. Yeah.
What is the uh in the absence of doing it yourself as a restaurant, disclosing it, it's easy to put a scan thing on your menu that you can do that for $4 a month, right? Uh, but you have to do all the work to fill in the back, right? In the absence of your doing it themselves or your program, how is it normally addressed?
Yeah. So I would say 2 ways. Major enterprise groups sometimes will have like a team of dietitians or nutritionists in house. They might have a team of 6 or 7 of them, and they'll have them do the exercise. That's kind of what's done in college campuses a bit as well. It'll be like an in-house dietetics nutritional team. That's one for major enterprises only, or two, it's been white glove consultants. So they're Doug, and I know some of them. They're great people. They're extremely comprehensive. They'll get you exactly what you need. The output is typically a PDF or a spreadsheet. And for the most part, from what I have seen, it would just be dramatically more expensive and less tech forward, just to frame it that way. So again, that's how it's been done traditionally. And nothing wrong with it. It just, I think, was probably a different era of technical ability versus probably the world we live in now.
Yeah, the world we live in now is moving so fast, it's crazy.
I can't keep Opus 4.7 with Claude comes out a day or two ago. I'm trying to figure I can't barely keep on top of it.
It is really, really impressive.
Another thing just worth mentioning as well is we're not limited to restaurants. We work with stadiums, we work with a lot of other environments. With stadiums, for example, we're now working with Major League Baseball. So we're integrated into their ballpark app. We map stadiums. So the first one that we did is the Baltimore Orioles at Camden Yards. They have approximately 100 concession stands across the stadium. So what we've done for them is not just map all the allergens and ingredients for all the concession stands, but we've actually created a discovery experience. So when a consumer goes into the ballpark app, they can hit gluten-free and vegan,
Super cool.
and now all 100 concession stands show like
You
in
can eat there.
order where and
Yeah.
what. So instead of walking around the stadium, I'm a massive sports fan like I do, and being like, where the hell? It will literally say Dylan's hot dog stand, level 3, exit 7, has these 8 items for you. Go. So that's been a pretty cool thing as well. And we can do that in kind of any event or bigger environment.
Very cool. How about companies like Aramark?
Yeah, so so that's with for the Baltimore Orioles. It's been Compass Levy is who's been they're the food service provider there. We're talking to Aramark at the moment about a number of their stadiums. Sodexo, the same thing. So they have the exact same problem that the restaurants have, in that a lot of these regulations are applied to them and to their units of operation, which are education, healthcare, events, corporate dining. All of these places are impacted as well. These are
How
big
do
companies.
yeah. How does like it's really sad when you walk into a 7-Eleven and there's nothing there you can eat, not because it's got food allergies, it's because it's all junk food. But are they addressing this? Do they have to address that with all the Doritos and the candy and the what? Not really, huh?
I'm not as sure. Like, I would imagine, to the extent that, yeah, whatever RFK is doing federally around food dyes and stuff, and Texas actually is another state that's doing unilaterally stuff around that. To the extent that those regulations come in, that will obviously impact them. But outside of like just whatever is required by regulation,
By
essentially.
regulations, yeah. Yeah. Super cool. So have people poked their head in and started to be competitors from a tech?
We've one main competitor. They're solid as well. They've been doing this. They were more nutrition based company that has been doing it for like 15 years or so, and now they've kind of layered on allergen functionality as well. So um they're solid. Of course, I think self biased. I think our product is better in a number of ways. But like I said, I do a lot of advocacy around this issue as well. I work with FAIR, who are the main food allergy organization in the US. I chair one of their boards around hospitality and whatnot. So, for me, ultimately, this is like the mission of our company is to make sure that this, transparency around what's in food emerges. And frankly, obviously, I hope people will use our product, but if they use our competitors or, like I said, do it themselves or use another white glove consultant, more power to them. I don't dramatically care overall once as an industry and as a society, we now start taking the steps that we need to take to keep all these families safe. Um, and I don't like to talk about the horror stories, but they happen every day, all the time. Every 30 seconds, someone in the United States goes to the emergency room with an anaphylactic um, reaction. And most of them are saved, but some of them aren't. And that's just not good enough anymore.
Yeah, it's not the EpiPen market is big, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever.
And a lot of regs have come in around that now, actually, which is great. They're now New York, I think, is one of the first movers on that. They're now required to be at college campuses and in stadiums and places like that, and that's amazing. So at least when and if unfortunately things go wrong, at least there's something there to save the person.
Is there a need for capital? Are you raising money?
Yeah, so I think we're actually going to be raising capital again in the next 1 to 2 months. We've raised about 3 million so far. An initial kind of small round, and then a pre-seed round about 18 months ago. We're lucky we have a really great cap table, some great venture families and angels behind us, and so funnily enough, just you could say good luck, like the regulations falling into our lap, like literally
Totally. Like you got
made
a
us made us
regulatory, not headwind, but tailwind,
yeah,
right?
it made us compliance software overnight, quite
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of just been growing steadily off the back of that over the last few months and doing the tweaks that we needed to do to make sure that we were fully making sure that our clients were compliant with the legal requirements. And now we're ready to, I think, take it to the next level. We have all the infrastructure in place. So yeah, we'll be raising capital in the next 4 days.
Nice. Yeah. Well, this has been awesome, but we're about out of time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it has been great. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this, Dylan. Really appreciate it. It's fascinating stuff. Like I said, that our app is indispensable when we go shopping. So I think this is going to be the same thing when fortunately for me, I can eat everything. I don't have any issues, but I know dozens and dozens of people that do. Right. So yeah, good luck with it. Yeah.
No, really appreciate that.
Thanks for sharing the story. It's fascinating.
Not at all. And if anyone listening is on the restaurant side or the consumer side or the investor side and wants to reach out, feel free to get me on LinkedIn or my email, which I'm sure we'll share as part of this as well.
Yeah. We'll put it out for sure. Thanks,
Brilliant.
Dylan. Really appreciate
Not
it.
at all.
Thanks everybody for being with us today.